Gentlemen, today I want to give you 14 red pills that will help you to unplug from Oneitis permanently. I'm going to start this with a piercing question. How many of you still believe in the one, the perfect woman who will love you unconditionally, no matter who you are, no matter what you have, and no matter how far you fall? If you do, brace yourself, because tonight I'm going to rip that illusion apart. So, this perfect woman who loves us unconditionally is what we refer to as the unicorn sometimes. And every man at some point has had the ideal woman. Okay? She could be your first love, the first woman or the first girl who kissed you when you had nothing. She's a woman who loved you when you are at your lowest. You had nothing, you were broke, you did not have anything. Or she could be the one that got away, the woman that you really wanted, but she got away and you remember her as perfect. She was a flawless woman. She could also be the woman that maybe you saw in the magazine. I think Boys to Men had a song called The Girl in the Lifestyle magazine or something like that. Or she could be the virtuous woman that is described in Proverbs. Even the woman in Proverbs is an ideal woman. Okay? She could even be your current girlfriend or your current wife. Okay? She is a woman you think is a unicorn. She's perfect. She's faithful. She's loving. She's non-slutty. She's unattainable. No man can attain her except you. And when you finally get this woman, most of us, you normally simp. Okay? But here is a cold truth. That woman does not exist. Despite what you believe, despite what you think, she doesn't exist. And I'm going to tell you why and how. But the first red pill that most men have to take is to accept that that woman does not exist. That's the first red pill of red pill awareness. Most men, they invest their entire lives in this romantic illusion. But the concept has been falsified by women's hypergamous and opportunistic nature. And this was revealed, of course, by the father of evolutionary psychology, David Bass, in his seminal work, Evolution of Desire. Okay? Before then, people did not really understand hypergamy and how insidious it is in the female psyche. The second thing is that men have a psychology for rejection buffers. I'm going to break this down. So why do men cling to this ideal of, this is my perfect wife, this is my perfect girlfriend, she will never cheat on me, she loves me unconditionally? Why do men cling to that fantasy? The reason men do that is to protect themselves from rejection. Okay? So psychologists call this rejection buffers. Rollo Tomasi spends time explaining this in The Rational Male. So what we are doing is the same thing that lonely children do. They invent imaginary friends. I think you guys may know this. A child can actually invent an imaginary friend and they can play with that friend. Particularly children who have lost their parents. They have been proved time and time again to be capable of inventing imaginary friends to keep them company, to make them feel loved, and so on. So in the same way, men normally invent an imaginary perfect woman or imaginary perfect women. Disney and fairy tales like Cinderella and Snow White, they train us from boyhood to pedestalize women as pure and guileless. Okay, so that gives us a very good foundation for Oneitis, for developing this virtuous woman. So that is where Oneitis or the soulmate myth comes from. It takes root right from childhood. Once you've read Snow White and Cinderella, you actually start thinking that women are these perfect creatures who can love you unconditionally. And so when you meet this woman, we make her the ideal. We make her to become the one who will love us unconditionally. We tell ourselves that she's going to love us for our inner worth, not because of our external performance. But reality is much, much harsher. Where did this soulmate myth come from? So there's an ancient Greek philosopher called Plato. He wrote in the Symposium that humans originally we didn't have two arms, we didn't have two legs, and so on and so forth. Okay? What he said is that we had four arms, okay? We had two heads, we had four legs, and so on. But human beings became arrogant, okay? We became very arrogant, and then the god Zeus decided to punish us, okay? And he punished us by splitting us into two. We were very egotistical and arrogant. So he split humans into two. And because of our egoistic nature, he split us into two, and he left us split in half. So these two arms we have here, this is half of who we are. We're supposed to have four arms, four legs, and so on. So when we were left split in half, we felt incomplete. And so we roam the earth looking for the other half that we lost. So this is where the concept of soulmates was born. So when you finally find this other person who matches you, then now we call that the soulmate. It was a concept that Plato is the one who came up with. And in Genesis, also, the Hebrews came up with the idea that God created a woman from man's rib, and the woman was supposed to be a helper of man. In Unplugged 3, Modern Women and Female Nature, I address this in detail. So if you guys who are interested in looking at female nature, you can read Unplugged 3 to look at whether women are actually designed to become helpers, or whether this is actually a fantasy that men came up with, or patriarchy came up with, to subjugate women and appropriate them to our own ends. So the question we are asking ourselves is, are women designed to be in long-term relationships, even if they are not benefiting from those relationships? That is a question that I answer in Unplugged 3. So to continue with the myth of idealistic love, men normally want women to love them idealistically. And to be lovers idealistically means to love us even when you are ugly, even when you are broke, even when you are fat. Okay? You want a woman to love you. That is called wanting to be loved idealistically. It's an ideal, it's perfection. Okay? We want women to be faithful to us forever. We never want the women that we love to sleep with other men. Okay? We want them to ignore other men, to never find them to be handsome, only us. That is what we want the ideal woman to be for us. And at some point, we decide that a certain woman is that ideal woman. However, what we learn from evolutionary psychology is that women love opportunistically, not idealistically. Okay? As Rollo puts it, women love you for what you represent to them in that particular moment, not for who you are eternally. Okay? And that is why men chasing untainted rural girls, what we call kienyeji. We have so many guys who have come back from the US to get kienyeji girls, are only to be given thorough character development. So that's one reason why men who are chasing untainted rural girls or hiding their wealth. If you watched Eddie Murphy's movie, Coming to America, he was from a rich family, but he pretended to be poor so that he can get a girl to love him for who he is, not for, for what he was, as opposed to the riches that he had. So in Coming to America also, Eddie Murphy shows us the kind of things that men want and the extent we go to get a woman who will love you. purely and idealistically. So these guys who get Kenyeji women, they suffer brutal disillusionment and disappointment because hypergamy doesn't care about purity myths. It only cares about survival and reproduction or replication, okay? And that's what we call alpha facts and beta bucks, okay? Survival is the beta bucks side of hypergamy, and alpha facts is a replication side of hypergamy. This is also emphasized by Warren Farrell in the myth of male power. Then there is the issue of the collapse of masculine frame. The Oneitis or the unicorn myth, it normally weakens men because when as a man, you believe that this woman is your ideal woman, what normally happens is that you drop your frame. You think that you don't have to work so hard. You don't have to be good looking, okay? You can just be yourself and you still be loved. You can go around smelling, your hair is shaggy, you're not taking care of your looks, your grooming, and so on. You expect this woman to love you unconditionally, and that becomes a problem. You even drop your masculine authority, okay? So instead of leading, you now crave love and validation. You think that she's going to love you, even if you stop performing, then that's when she loses attraction, okay? That's when you get discarded. So it's very, very important to realize that this myth actually may not serve your interests. It may not serve your biological imperatives as a man. History and behavioral psychology both affirm this, that women want strong, directive men, men who can provide leadership, men who can protect them. When men abdicate leadership, relationships implode. This was documented by Ellis in 2002. The other thing is we need to understand and embrace hypergamy and female realism. So this is the real truth, and it's a brutal truth. All women are hypergamous. Your mother, your sister, your girlfriend, your wife, all of them are hypergamous. She's with you because you are her best option, not her ideal man, okay? Women always have orbiters around them. They have backups, they have plan B men. The next guy in line is always there because of their survival imperatives. They want security. That is basically like spinning plates. It's a plate theory in action. Women are best at spinning plates. And that's why monkey branching comes as second nature. So this is actually rooted in evolutionary reproductive strategies. I've spoken about the war bride dynamic in Unplugged 1. Those who don't understand the war bride dynamic can actually read Unplugged 1, where we had American soldiers who went to Vietnam, but when the war was over, the Vietnamese women went to the US as war brides. So if a woman's man is killed, this is what we learned from the war bride dynamic. If a woman's man is killed, she marries the conqueror. She does not die of depression. She just jumps onto the stronger guy, the guy who is more competent. Romance bends to survival. Okay? This is written in The Evolution of Human Sexuality by Simmons. Romance bends to survival. Women don't love the ideal man. They love the best man that they can get. And the English anthropologist Robert Briffault also reminds us in Briffault's law that the female, not the male, determines all the conditions of the animal family. And most importantly, where the female can derive no benefit from the association with the male, no such association takes place. So when you translate this in human mating context, a woman maintains a relationship only as long as she perceives benefit. Once the utility or provisioning evaporates or declines, she perceives better options and her loyalty evaporates. Okay? And that, of course, is expressed through emotional disengagement and monkey branching. So male commitment and sacrifice do not override her hypergamous calculus. You have to remember that. You can never kill hypergamy. We also need to embrace rejection as a rite of passage, gentlemen. The unicorn is nothing more than a buffer against rejection. But men must embrace rejection. Okay? You know, those who have done sales know that you must never allow rejection to discourage you from approaching potential clients. So no woman will love you unconditionally. You need to accept that, and it's okay. Hypergamy does not care about your feelings. Even Will Smith, after all the public humiliation, his wife cheating and telling people on the red table, he still has clung to the ideal of Jada as his unicorn. Okay? To his own detriment, slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars and so on. And that's the danger of Oneitis. Men sacrifice sanity and sovereignty for an illusion. It does not exist. Okay? And women don't care about it. That's why even during Valentine, it is men who buy flowers. Because men believe in this illusion of the soulmate myth, of a romantic ideal. So this soulmate myth and this idea of a predestined other half. People believe that when you meet this woman now, you've met your better half, and now she will love you forever, and she'll never see other men, she'll never cheat on you. But this is a gynocentric script that works in women's favor. You need to remember that. It is not for men. It conditions men to overinvest in one woman. It also discourages men from developing abundance and options. So it makes you beholden to one woman. However beautiful it is, you must understand its harmful effects on you. It also creates an emotional leverage for women, okay? Because a man believes that losing her equals losing his destiny. You are attaching the woman to your destiny, okay? This is why some men commit suicide or they kill women when these women leave them, because they believe this woman is part of their destiny, and yet that is an illusion. So in reality, evolution does not select for soulmates. Evolution selects for adaptive mating strategies. Women seek the best providers, the best protectors, and the best genetic quality available at the moment. That's what they look for. They don't look for illusions. They don't look for ideals. We normally say that women are practicalists forced to be romantics, but men are romantics forced to be practicalists. And that's why we have the red pill. The red pill is something that many men embrace after their illusions have been shattered, because the red pill is about a practical acceptance of reality and of female nature. So you have to understand, gentlemen, that there's no perfect woman. There is only the woman that you shape. A perfect woman is not found. She is forged. And that's one of the reasons we encourage you to find a young woman who you can mold, who you can influence, who can enter your frame. Because through frame control, vetting, and boundary enforcement, you polish the horn of the so-called unicorn. Remember, the unicorn is a horse that has one horn and the wings. So she's not born ideal. A woman is not born ideal. She becomes molded by your leadership. And that's why many times we say that relationships are reflective. If you do not draw boundaries, if you not have a strong frame, the woman is going to run riot in that particular relationship. So scarcity thinking keeps men trapped. Abundance thinking liberates men. Okay? So remember, Oneitis is part of scarcity thinking. Do you want to be trapped, or do you want to be free? Esavilla wrote in The Manipulated Man that women shape themselves around powerful men, not the other way around. And that's why we normally tell guys, if you have a woman who is not submissive or who does not respect you, it is not the case that this woman is not submissive. This woman is just not submissive to you. Okay? You'll find when she's in the office, she's very submissive to the boss. She does not talk back. She makes tea with a smile. She does not argue with him. She does not give him a rough time. So, and that's why I also encourage women that they need to get men that they respect, men that they can enter their frame without feeling that these men are not competent. Okay? So what can guys do to deal with this problem of Oneitis? Now that there is no unicorn, what do? I'm going to give you 14 imperatives or red pills that can help you navigate life knowing that there is no unicorn. Okay? How do you shatter Oneitis? The first thing you do is you have to embrace the burden of performance. Okay? So, gentlemen, you must never forget this universal law. Men are loved for what they do, not for who they are. Don't forget that. Write it down. Men are loved for what they do, not for who they are. Even if you are a nice person on the inside, nobody cares. And women will tell you, oh, I want a nice guy, I want a God-fearing man. Women don't care about that. They will only want you to be God-fearing once they already like you. Okay? If you're already God-fearing and you don't have the qualities, the desirable qualities, nobody is going to care how God-fearing and kind you are. Okay? So the qualities that you need to have for a woman to want you, it's about your value, the value that you bring to the society. So this is the burden of performance. And unlike women who are valued primarily for their youth and fertility, men must create their value. Men are born without value. You must become valuable. So what does this mean? It means you need to build status. You need to become respected by your peers, by your competitors, and by your allies. I normally tell guys, if you're in any profession, you must make sure you develop your skill level or your proficiency to world-class level. If you've not developed your proficiency to world-class level, then you are mediocre. Okay? And mediocrity is going to make you invisible. That's the first thing, build status. Secondly, develop competence. You need to have mastery in skills and leadership and problem solving. Have at least one skill that you've mastered to world-class level. You must have mastery. Okay? The third thing is you must accumulate resources. You must have your money right. Because provision is wired to the female mate choices. This is documented by David Bass, Evolution of Desire. So you must have resources. There's a guy called Hector Garcia who wrote a book called The Alpha God. One thing you see in the Bible, for example, the reason why God is able to deal with Abraham is because he can promise him land. He has resources. He can give them manna from heaven. So even as I want for you to be able to pursue and realize your biological imperatives, you must have resources. Kevin Samuels used to say, you have to pay to be the boss. You cannot be a broke boss. You cannot be expected to be respected if you are broke. So you must have resources. A man who fails to perform gets no sympathy. Warren Farrell tells us in The Myth of Male Power that men are the disposable sex. Their worth is tied to their performance. Okay? Your worth is tied to your performance, nothing else. The second thing, you should never lose frame. Frame is everything. It is the psychological reality of a relationship. Okay? That is whose worldview dominates in that relationship. We say that frame is the unspoken acceptance of one's authority. So in your relationship, you must hold that frame. If you enter a relationship with a strong frame, then you dictate the pace, you dictate the expectations and the tone. Lose your frame and you are swallowed by her own frame. Okay? Because the frame is either yours who is holding it or she's holding it. In Unplugged, Alpha Rich Cooper reminds us that women test boundaries. So you have to remember this. I've spoken about this before. And it's not because women are evil, but it's because female nature constantly probes for weakness. She needs to assure herself that she is the best man, she is a competent man. So if your frame collapses under stress, attraction collapses with it. Frame equals to masculine sovereignty. Guard it like your life depends on it. The third thing is you need to embrace rejection, because options equal to confidence. And you will never have options if you're afraid of rejection. Rejection is never the end. Salespeople know this. It's the beginning of power. So embrace it. Every rejection chips away at fear. Every rejection builds abundance. Baumeister tells us in Is There Anything Good About Men? That men evolved to be disposable risk takers. Okay? Our ancestors faced rejection. They faced defeat. They faced even death. Yet, those who've kept moving are the ones who created the future. So embrace rejection. Those who never get rejected never get anything. Options are what create confidence. A man with 3 women in orbit will never cling desperately to one. Okay? You are not going to tolerate bad behavior if you have options. The men who tolerate cheating, disrespect, and so on are men who don't have options. And scarcity breeds neediness. Abundance breeds sovereignty. So create your options, embrace rejection. Fourth thing is you need to understand female nature and accept hypergamy. Hypergamy is not an insult. It is just female firmware. Women are wired to seek the best deal in their mating markets. Okay? The man who has the highest value relative to our options is the one that women will pick. David Bass did a cross-cultural survey of 10,000 people in evolution of desire, and he found that women consistently prioritize resources, ambition, and dominance across all cultures. So it's not about white women, black women, and so on. Hypergamy is going to free you. You will realize that and accept it. Fighting it enslaves you. Any man who is fighting hypergamy is someone who is still clinging to the illusion of Oneitis and the ideal woman. The fifth thing is you have to understand that scarcity creates value. And this is something that you learn from economics as law of supply and demand. It also applies in relationships. Oversupply devalues you. If you flood a woman with your attention, with compliments, with validation, you will end up lowering your perceived worth. Okay? This is just a law of supply and demand. Anything in large supply becomes valueless. You see luxury goods like gold, expensive watches, diamond rings, and so on. They are rare, they are limited, and therefore they are coveted. Apply the same principle to your attention. Savila reminds us in The Manipulated Man that women exploit men who give unlimited devotion. Scarcity is what makes you precious. The sixth thing is you need to embrace abundance mindset. There is no one. Okay? You don't have only one woman on earth. Oneitis is a disease. The reason it's called itis is because it manifests itself like mental illness. Okay? When you talk about meningitis, hepatitis, so we talk about Oneitis, believing that she is the only one in the world. It leads to weakness, it leads to supplication and despair, and it has led many men to commit suicide and make very stupid mistakes. So abundance mindset is the antidote of Oneitis. There is no one, there are many. Evolutionary psychology backs this idea. It says that across history, polygyny has been far more common than monogamy. Polygyny is polygamy. We have polygamy as one form of polygyny, where your man marries many women. Okay, women know this. That's why they keep options. But men who are idealistic are the ones who don't do this. The blue pill men. Men also know this. King Solomon, Genghis Khan, a lot of our political leaders, you realize they don't keep one woman. They have a lot of women around the place. Okay? So the seventh thing, you need to constantly re-evaluate and level up. Never settle, never stagnate. Stasis is death. A man must evolve in perpetuity. Audit yourself constantly. Ask yourself, how is your mind? Are you learning? Are you reading? Are you sharpening your mind? Are you sharpening your intellect? Other than your mind, you also must ask yourself, your body, are you strong? Are you physically fit? Are you healthy? Are you disciplined? Are you still taking harmful substances, smoking, taking alcohol, taking things like coffee in huge amounts? You must understand your body. What is your weight? What is your BMI? Have you checked your prostate antigen level? Have you checked your blood sugar level? You need to understand, how is your body? Can you do 30 push-ups? How fast can you run 100 meters? Okay? Your spirit, do you live by your principles? Do principles guide your mission, or are you an opportunist who anything goes? Okay? You must have direction. Finances, do you have a safety net? Are you investing? How much passive income are you earning per month? Are you growing your resources? Are you reducing dependency on an employer? So these are things you must work on. Nietzsche said that he who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. So your why is your growth. Put yourself first, prioritize yourself. The eighth thing is you need to be a full stack man. A full stack man is a man who is competent in all dimensions. He has social charisma, he has physical dominance, he has financial acumen, he has emotional control, he has strategic foresight, and so on. We talk about the front end and the back end. I can do another video on full stack men. There are levels to it. There's the hardware and there's also the software. So not one dimensional, but being a well-rounded Jack Donovan, Jack of all trades. Jack Donovan tells us in The Way of Men that masculinity is a mastery of strength, courage, and mastery and honor. So you must have strength, you must have courage, you must have mastery, and you must have honor. You must be respected. You must be able to enforce boundaries. Full stack men embody all. The other thing is you cannot be a dumpster. You cannot engage in dumpster diving. Okay? Never go back to an ex who you broke up with, who you rejected you, or who you rejected. Returning to an ex is regression. It's going back. Okay? And it signals scarcity and weakness. If you break up with a woman, never ever go back to her, never reunite, never make up. Because the effort that is normally required to repair a broken relationship is normally way more than starting a new one. And a woman who once thought that you are better will never think that you are alpha. Studies show that 44% of people who eventually reconcile with their ex normally don't get very good results. In fact, the reunions normally end up shorter, they are less satisfying, and they are more toxic. Okay? Just to be clear, out of every 100 people who break up, 44% normally reunite with their ex. But those 44%, they end up being shorter, more toxic, less satisfying, and normally colored by regret. So once you've taken out the trash, never go root through it again. If it is out, it is gone. 10th thing is be the man that other men want to be and that other women want to bang. Thomas says this so many times. He captures the essence of male competition. Women desire men who command admiration from both sexes. The female dynamic where women want men that other women already want is called pre-selection. They want pre-selected men, and they also want men that other men admire. So it means becoming aspirational. Men follow you and women pursue you. Okay? Alpha is not arrogance. Being alpha is a demonstration of competence and dominance in life. So you should all strive to be alphas. The 11th thing, you should never ever negotiate desire. Desire must be genuine, uncoerced, and spontaneous. Do not negotiate it. Do not coerce it. Do not beg for desire. You cannot beg, bargain, or even use logic to convince a woman into attraction. Tomasi says you cannot negotiate genuine desire. So don't engage in transactional sex, pity sex, obligation sex. These are poisons to your masculine self-respect. If you have to pay a woman to have sex with her, that means she does not desire you. And to engaging a woman like that is a lack of self-respect on your part as a man. Okay? If she doesn't want you, she doesn't want you, period. She starts asking you for fare and asking you to give her money for the salon. That is transactional sex, and you should not tolerate that. The 12th thing is you have to know and position yourself as a prize at all times. Shift the frame. You are not chasing. you are choosing, but it takes work. But that is what you should work for. In evolutionary terms, men competed for women. But in the modern world, with the rise of gynocentrism, men must reclaim the mindset of being the prize. Your mission, your ambition, your presence, that is what makes you valuable. Don't forget it. You need to prioritize those. The 13th thing is appearance. It matters. Never take your appearance for granted. I hear people telling men, wanaume tafuteni pesa. But that money is going to be useless if you don't take care of your appearance. Remember, even dating apps, they're just based on appearance. Women choose men based on what they are seeing. So never let yourself go. Okay? Attraction has a visual baseline. Okay? You must look physically fit. You must take care of your grooming. You must dress in properly fitting clothes. Okay? Women value status, yes, but they also value height. They value symmetry, and they value fitness. So you don't need to be like Mr. Olympia or Adonis and so on, but you must optimize what you can control. You can't control your height, for example, but you can control your grooming. You can control your dressing. You can control your strength, work out, get fit. You can also control your health. Women don't like men who look weak and sickly. So be strong. Neglect signals decay. Presentation is performance. How do you present yourself? How do you show up in public? Are you confident? Are you energetic? Are you strong? Okay? So, gentlemen, these are not just rules. These are survival imperatives in a gynocentric social order. The unicorn is dead. What remains is your choice. Build, perform, and lead, or collapse under illusions. So, gentlemen, the unicorn is a myth. As you've already seen, she never existed. So, it existed only in your mind. She was your projection of your fear of rejection. That's what the unicorn is. But the truth is harsher but also liberating. Women will never love you idealistically. Okay? They will only love you opportunistically. And that's okay. The question is, will you keep chasing fantasies, or will you embrace reality, build abundance, and become the prize? That's the question. So put your comments in the section below. Have you ever believed in the unicorn myth? Have you ever believed in Oneitis? Did you ever fall in love with one girl and thought that she would be the one? I'm sure we all have gone through that. I have done that myself when I was young. What did it cost you to believe in this Oneitis or soulmate myth? In my circles of men, when we talk about this subject, guys can tell you stories. People have gone through a lot. And now that you've understood these 13 or 14 principles, how will you apply these principles in your own life moving forward? So tell me in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Gentlemen, if you found value in this video, do me a solid. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with another man who needs to hear it. Here is why it matters. When you like and subscribe, YouTube pushes this content to more men out there who are struggling silently. So your simple click could be the reason another man wakes up to his reality. You could actually save a life by doing so. And for you who has already watched, subscribing makes sure you never miss these lessons. Every week, I'll be dropping strategies, red pill truths, and survival frameworks that will help you to stay sharp, stay sovereign, and ahead of the curve. So subscribe, like, share, because when one man wins, we all rise.